Today, September 15th, 2021, marks the 125th anniversary of the crash at Crush. We're going to take a little road trip 3 miles south of West Texas to where this event happened 125 years ago today.
On September 15th, 1896, it was pretty much a day like this. Lower 90 degrees, partly sunny skies. But this part of Texas, Crush, Texas, which was named Crush, Texas for one day, became the second largest city in the state of Texas. This is where they put on a public relations stunt, put on by the MKT Railways, taking two obsolete 30-ton steam locomotives, and they put them on this track and they put them head-on to each other for head-on collision. They came down, had one train. They went about a mile down this side, which was engine number 1001, and engine 999 was a mile down this road. They backed them up, and at 5 o'clock that afternoon, they came to this spot right here where they collided head-on. Like I said, this was a public relations stunt by MKT, and it was all thought up by William George Crush, and thus they named the little town after him. Once he got the promotion started, they named it Crush, Texas after him. The railways had an offer for everybody in the state of Texas. If you wanted to come to Crush, Texas, it would cost you $2 round trip anywhere in Texas. So they had over 40 to 50,000 people show up for this event at $2 a head. The crowd was so large that behind me here, they had a Ringling Brothers circus tent set up for food. They drilled 2 wells for water. They had a spectator grandstands. They actually built a depot here, a temporary depot, to accommodate all the folks coming in from all across Texas to see the event. And one of the things that, they had seen this happen up in Ohio. They had an exhibition in May of 1896 up in Ohio, and it went off without a hitch. And about 20,000 people did show up for that event. So William George Crush thought he would do the same thing here. The only problem was I think there were different types of steam locomotives. These boilers, they're questionable. And he talked to the engineers to find out, will these boilers explode when the 2 trains collide? They reassured him there'd be no problem. Those boilers were designed to take punishment like that, so everything was a go. Well, when the 2 trains came down the track and hit, both engines went straight up in the air and fell on their sides. About 2 seconds later, both boilers exploded unexpectedly. The crowd was already back about 200 yards away from this track, but pieces of debris, iron, pieces of the train went flying. It killed 2 to 3 people. We're not sure about the 3rd person, but they killed at least 2 people and injured many others. Once they got the injured and the dead away from the train, souvenir hunters went up and they just stripped the train down. People were burning their hands on hot steaming iron to get souvenir parts. But it was a success financially, but they fired William George Crush immediately. But when they saw that there was a financial success, they went ahead and hired him back the very next day. And he ended up making the railway his career till the day he died.
William George Crush, who was a general passenger agent of the Missouri-Kansas-Texas Railroad, conceived the idea in order to demonstrate a staged train wreck as a public spectacle. No admission was charged, and train fares to the crash site, called Crush, set up as a temporary destination for the event, were offered at the reduced rate of $2, which is equivalent to $62 today, from any location in Texas. A 4-mile section of temporary elevated tracks were built beside the main tracks in a small valley 3 miles south of West Texas. This allowed each train to begin in a downhill position. They had calculated that the trains would be doing 45 miles an hour at the point of impact. Once the engineers set full throttle to the trains, they would jump from the trains to safety. Word spread quickly about the planned train crash, and people flocked to Crush, Texas. Some of the trains were so full that people were riding on top of the cars. All the publicity worked for the MKT. They expected 20,000 people to show up for this event. When it was all said and done, estimated 40 to 50,000 people showed up. Safety concerns were raised about the boilers that are being used in these two engines and what would the impact of the crash have on them. Well, George Crush was reassured by the engineers that these boilers would not explode. They are designed for high impact, so there was nothing to worry about.
According to Wikipedia, this is the spot where the two trains collided. Also, there's a photo of the two trains going cowcatcher to cowcatcher. That was this spot right here, 125 years ago today.
After this photo was taken, both trains backed up 1 mile and waited for the signal. George Crush, riding a white stallion, rode up to the track, tipped his white cowboy hat, signaling the trains to go. This photo shows the trains just before impact, speeding towards each other. Here is the moment of impact. Both engines went nose to the sky and then fell over sideways. Some say 1 to 2 seconds later, both boilers exploded, sending iron shrapnel through the air and up to a half-mile away. This explosion proved fatal for at least 2 people and injured many, many others, including the photographer who took this picture when a bolt went through his right eye. One of those killed that day was a 15-year-old girl named Emmer Frances Overstreet, who was buried just a few miles from where she was killed. We stopped by and paid our respects to her. This photo was taken just moments after the explosion and shows the chaos that was going on while they were trying to get the injured and the dead out of the area. The crowd surged forward, grabbing pieces of the wreckage as souvenirs. Many of them experienced burn injuries as a result. George Crush was immediately fired, but rehired the very next day. Crush worked for the MKT Railways for the rest of his life, but never participated in railway promotions again. He died at the age of 77 in 1943. In George Crush's day, the steam locomotive was the latest in modern transportation. It's ironic that he is buried in the flight path of Love Field in Dallas. If you're ever in West Texas, be sure to stop by the train station in downtown West. They've got a historical marker set up where you can read all about the crash at Crush. West Texas is located about an hour south of Dallas and about 15 miles north of Waco on I-35. There's not much to do at the train depot, but you can take yourself on a self-tour of a caboose. Also, if you're hungry, this is the town to go to. There are so many Czech restaurants in this little town, but they're probably most well known for their pastries. There are bakeries all over this town. I mean, their world famous cinnamon rolls are a must when you go up I-35. We stop every time we go to I-35. We stop at the Czech stop and get a bunch of cinnamon rolls. Those things are delicious. The soundtrack that has been playing during this video was a piece written by ragtime musician Scott Joplin called Great Crush Collision March. Joplin also wrote the very popular song, The Entertainer. Until next time, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks for watching.